Graham,
Present.
Candia, Mayor Pro Tem Martina,
Present.
Mayor Caden.
Present. Okay, item 5, declaration of conflicts of interest. I don't think we have any this evening. We'll go to item number 6, ceremonial matters. And it's a great pleasure for us to do this. Item A is recognition of City Council Member Donald Hutchins for service at the City Council, City of Newman. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. As many of you may know, former council member Don Hutchins was elected in November of 2010 to serve on the council. He's done a lot of great things and represented the city on a lot of different committees. He served on the West Side Theater as our representative and sat on the board on that. He served on the Alliance Board. He was very active with the Fall Festival, did some emceeing over there as well as helped putting the programs together. He served as chairman of our RDA Oversight Board. He supported the development of the downtown plaza and was also very supportive of the purchase of this particular building and the rehab of it as we moved forward and made that into a new city hall. But I think one of the things that most people may not know, but I think is very important, Don did a lot of going out and representing our community, but one of the I think, personally, I think one of the best ones was he served on the League of California Cities Executive Committee and served as president of our division. So, that's over 24 cities are on and representing that division. It's basically our area, and I believe it's San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Merced County. Was Churchill in there too? Madera County as well. And so he did that for a full year and represented us well. He represented us at the annual league meetings, as well as going down to committee meetings, and he would travel down to Southern California at least once or twice a year to represent our community and to represent our division. So it's with great honor that I would like the mayor to go ahead and do a presentation
Great.
for former council member Don Hutchins.
Come on up, Don. You know the drill. As the city manager said, Don didn't just hold a seat on the council. He was an active member and took his role very seriously. And always counted him to serve on committees that I asked him to serve on. He did it with pride and did it 100%. He didn't just show up. So with that, Don, I appreciate all your hard work you've done for City of Newman, and congratulate you. And on behalf of the City of Newman, present you with this, I'm sure, costs a lot of money. It says Councilmember Donald Hutchins from 2010 to 2014. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Have a word if you want.
I don't have anything.
I'll give you the mic for
I talked enough when I was on the council. I don't need to talk anymore now. No, but it was an honor serving on the council. I really did enjoy it. Of course, now I'm teaching 7th grade math full-time in Patterson, so they're beating me up much more than the citizens here ever did. So, but once again, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you, Don.
enjoy it.
Appreciate your service. Thank you so much. And we're going to roll right through this agenda, and so in the back, staff, as usual, has gone out of their way to present food and drink. So we'll get through this agenda real quick, and please stay for the after party. Okay, we'll go to item 7, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council, now will be time to do it. Seeing none, we'll go to consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. B is approval of the warrants. Actually, A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions set by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of January 2013 meeting. Council direction?
I move that we approve the consent calendar as read.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Council Member Candia absent. Okay, we'll go to item 9, is public hearing, and we don't have one this evening. So we'll go to item 10, A is report on agreement for fire dispatch services. Michael?
And thank you, Mayor and fellow council members. Tonight before you, we have a fire dispatch agreement with the Modesto Stanislaus Consolidated Emergency Dispatch Joint Powers Agency. As you know, prior to January 1st of this year, the Joint Powers Agency, or Stanislaus 911 is its common name, provided both dispatch services for our police and fire services. In September of this last year, 2014, you approved a contract that would allow dispatch services to then be moved over to the city of Oakdale. I'm glad to say that changeover did occur prior to January 1st of 2015, and the police department is very happy with the services at this particular point in time. However, that left fire dispatch still out there. The city of Oakdale, when we had the conversations with them, they don't provide fire dispatch for their own agency, so they weren't going to provide it for us. We reached out to Stanislaus Regional 911, and they agreed to go ahead and continue to operate our fire dispatch services at this point in time, to continue doing that. So we have an agreement in place, and we submitted it to you for your consideration. This is currently a budgeted item, so there is no fiscal impact. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments for the city manager?
Is it constantly increasing like the PD's was? Is that an ongoing issue?
At this point, it's not.
And is there any possibility to get a long-term contract with them to settle?
Yeah, they were waiting for the report on on Stanislaus Regional 911 that was co-funded by the county and Modesto. They're waiting for that report to come out before they want to enter into any long-term conversations with us for fire dispatch.
And with them having a lot of the issues they were having, that they're continually having, who does Turlock use? Do you know who they use?
Turlock, I believe, provides their own dispatch. Do you know if they do fire as
I
well?
believe that's correct. They do
Yeah.
their
They
own.
do their own. Okay.
I know Series Fire is through Stanislaus Regional.
Is that a possible option if their prices continue to jump as we did with the PD when going to Oakdale?
You know, when we reached out to Turlock with respect to fire, it was pretty high cost. If this gets to a point to where it's not realistic to continue, we will explore all our options, and including looking at our sister cities within the county.
Any other questions or comments? Council direction?
I so move that the council authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with the Modesto Stanislaus Consolidated Emergency Dispatch Joint Powers Agency.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Councilmember Candia absent. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge our city attorney who's showed back up. I showed down at the beginning of the meeting, Tom Hallinan, and welcome back, Tom. Glad you're here.
Thank you, good to be back.
Yeah. I'm sure your meetings elsewhere are a lot longer.
Ah, yes. Supervisor DeMartini and I commiserate about that often.
We're on pace tonight, so welcome back. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got item B. It's consider funding request for the Fall Festival / Miss Newman float. And I believe Tony Botero is here.
Hello. Over the last few years, we have a new crew that's taken over Fall Festival. I think we've gotten ourselves on pretty good footing financially and just getting the festival kind of to where we wanted it to go as a community celebration. And so in leading up to our 45th Fall Festival, we wanted to do kind of a project to celebrate the length of the festival and rebuild some of the community pride of Fall Festival and celebrating Newman around the county. Part of that, we thought about rebuilding our float. The float has been sadly neglected and parked and kind of forgotten about over the last 8 to 10 years, and is in pretty sorry shape at the moment. Structurally, I think it's pretty good, but the looks-wise are not so pleasant. So in having discussions with Fall Festival Committee, we realized that it's kind of an expense that we can't take up on our own. Our goal is to put on an event one weekend a year. So I've talked to city manager and about partnering with the city to get the float rebuilt and kind of move forward with a new design, something that kind of reflects where our community is at, reflects the Fall Festival, reflects the city of Newman in a good light. In these discussions, we have talked about whether we would like a professionally built float, something that's built within the community. And as Fall Festival's kind of talked about the issue a little bit more, we've kind of settled on a few issues. And so I've come now to ask you to help us with some funds that we could match with Fall Festival fundraising. And in our discussions, we've decided to try and build within the community. We've reached out for some volunteers. We have commitments from some builders, welders, artistic people, business people that have asked, said that they would love to help us do something like that. But it takes some money to kind of get some of these things done. So I'm going to ask for a lot, and we can discuss the levels. I would love to see something maybe in the range of a 10,000 split between the city and the Fall Festival. Of course, the Fall Festival would need to raise money specifically for the float. So we would ask that we have the year to pay the city back, or however we need to work that. And what we would look at doing is, in my thinking about it, and the committee has talked about it, is setting up the money in structural costs. So just to get the float back on the road, the trailer, amount of money for design and building, and then some money set aside for the end for maintenance, for gas money to drive the float around, to keep the float in a condition that we can be proud of for long term. This would not be a simple Band-Aid. This would be a complete rebuilding from the floor of the float, including new tires, new design, new everything. Our goal would be to, as much as we can, to use local businesses to build the float. Float Supply, the only place that's kind of near us is out of Fresno, so we would use them for the actual decor part of the float. But really incorporating local businesses, local ag, and representing what we would like to do.
Any questions from the council? I have a list, so.
Yeah. I have one. Why in the world would it cost $10,000 to redo a float?
Well, just in the size of the float, it's a 25-foot float by 8-foot float. It's not a little thing. It's a custom-built trailer. That's what we have currently. We could always look at doing something different, but I like to use what we've got first. And the 10,000, I would say personally, is a ceiling. I don't know that necessarily we would spend that much. If you don't want that much spent, we can adjust. And what I would say is that we would come back once we have an idea of money with a drawing that's a professional drawing to scale. You can see what we would have done and a list of supplies with the costs of everything. And then we can kind of go from there. I'm not saying that that's what will be spent, but I would like to have an upward ceiling so that we kind of know how to adjust the design.
I would think that $3,000 or $4,000 would be enough. I mean, you have the wheels already in the base.
We don't have wheels. We have to put all new tires on the trailer. It's been parked for 8 years and
Okay,
it's not.
tires and upgrading it. How much, I mean, seriously, that $10,000 sounds ridiculous to me.
It could be. It depends on the design and how nice we would like the float to be. In talking with the committee, we've talked about doing something that's ag, more ag-related, like with some almond trees, maybe some rolling foothills, field kind of scene. There's a lot of stuff that we can do in-house in building, and once we start pricing things out, we might be way off, and it might be only $3,000 or $4,000. But I'd like to have the approval there so that we know that there's room, and that we can come back to you and say, we have this great design and it's only going to cost us $3,000, so we don't need all that money. I'd rather ask for more and not use it and be prudent that way than trying to catch up and come back and say, there's no way we can do that.
I have a problem with that. Everything goes to the ceiling. If you have a ceiling, that's where it goes. That's
But
where
it won't, because we're going to be raising half the money ourselves also. So the less money we have to raise, the less money we spend, the less money we have to raise. And I don't want to tap the community more than we need to, because there's a lot of organizations raising money. But in going out and pricing professional float building, a decent float, with the lady I talked to in the Bay Area, which is the most local float builder, for a decent float professionally built, you're talking $15,000 to $20,000. So I'm saying about half of that to build in-house, which I think could be a lot less when I go out for business support and those kind of things. And I think businesses would either, one, give money to purchase certain items or purchase items for the float. But I'd like to just, I want to have a good idea. And if 20,000 is way off the mark, then we adjust it from there.
I think when you have a number, you tend to spend a little bit more than when you have a,
Not
when you have
at
a
the
higher
fall
number.
festival.
So if you have $10,000, you're going to fill in all the way to that $10,000 and get the most you can. Personally, I'd like to probably see a couple options and go from there on,
Which
you know,
is
build-ups and what the cost would be to build it up in that style, and then go from there
We can absolutely do
and do
that.
something along that lines, rather than just throwing the money out there and
Yeah,
not
I-
having a direction.
Right. And let me just say, in Fall Festival, we have a very set budget of what we spend. We don't throw away money willy-nilly because there's not a lot of money to be thrown around, for one. In spending public dollars, it's not about, oh, we have all this to play with, let's go buy some stuff to spend the money. I would like the float to be a nice thing that represents our community and is not cheaply thrown together. So in this discussion of prices, we're here before we have the drawings so that I know what the council would like, what direction we should take. We have not purchased anything, we have not gone out and had formal drawings done. This has been very informal at this point. My step in coming here first was to get these kind of questions out so that we knew what kind of direction to take and know how we need to adjust our stylings.
I have a question, another. Where will it be stored after it's finished?
For 2 years, we have an agreement with Miss Newman's parents, Sandy and Derek Solano, that it can be stored there. In talking with Nick, he has been part of our meetings, Mr. Candia, about this. We have a couple options that we're looking at for permanent storage. Our goal is to have a place after the 2 years that is permanent storage, so it's not moved around. Part of the rebuilding is we need a place indoors to store it. And if we're not going to have that place to store it, there's no point in building it in the first place. So we do have a guaranteed place for 2 years, and we have a couple options of some people that we're talking to for more long-term.
I'd just like to say, what you're taking on is a wonderful project.
Thank you.
And I don't think people realize that when we go to other cities and we have our float out there, it's not looked at very good lately.
Well, right now,
And I'm
Miss Newman
saying
rides
it-
around in the back of a pickup truck.
And I just really think the city should get involved for a number of reasons. But on that city float, it says the city of Newman.
It does.
And of course, that's representing the city of Newman. So, and I understand floats are not cheap, but it's Newman, so we try to, save a few dollars here.
Well, and the goal is to have a lot of volunteer labor so that those kind of costs are down. When I come in asking for 10,000, I'm not necessarily going to spend 10,000. I would be happy if we only spent 3 or 4, to be perfectly honest, to build it. If you say, here's our ceiling, that's what we'll do, but we'll try and come in under it. Because this is not, this is other people's money. It's not my money to throw around. It's not the committee's money to throw around. What we would ask is that the money stays at the city, that there's a subcommittee comprised of Fall Festival Committee members, city council member or members, and community members who would like to be involved. That talks about every purchase we make, that approves every purchase we make, and council would get design drawings for approval before anything gets built.
I think the city manager in your packet gave you a memo with a maximum recommendation, and I agree with that. But before I would agree to any funds being spent, I'd like to see the group come back with a financial plan, a business plan. And I think the city's cap would be 5,000
Okay?
from the city. Anything that I would recommend, I would approve, me personally. But I think there's a lot of things. I think there has to be a financial plan. I think you have to know, if you reached out to the rest of the community, the business community, in the past, although the city of Newman may physically own that float,
Yes.
has exempt plates on it, hasn't been used in years, but it's always been a City of Newman chamber
Yes.
float, not necessarily City of Newman float, it's a chamber float.
Yes.
I don't think the City of Newman is in the business of owning floats. I'm concerned about the long time maintenance it's going to cost to maintain it. I don't think the city should be tasked with maintaining the float. And in my opinion, I wouldn't be opposed to a one-time fee. I would not be in favor of fronting the money,
Okay.
because I don't know who's going to be responsible to pay it back to the city.
Fall Festival.
And who's going to sign their name to that?
Well, as treasurer, I would have to.
Yeah, so that means you're gonna be financially responsible for $205,000 back to the city?
Yes, absolutely. Fall Festival is committed to raise whatever the city agrees to raise a matching amount.
Yeah. So I think I think something should have started a long time ago. At this point, I think you're really up against the clock. But I don't know anything about building floats, and so I don't know if you've reached out to the business community yet.
We've
Yeah.
talked to some business people thus far. We're planning on sending out a letter to all the businesses, but we have talked to certain ones who have seen the float at this point in time and are very interested in helping us in whatever we need to do. I plan on having some personal conversations with specific businesses that I'd like to be involved, just because I think their products really would marry into the kind of design idea that we've talked about. And I think that they would be very helpful and amenable to helping. If we could do this all on our own, I think we absolutely would. Part of the problem is that it takes a long time to raise money sometimes. And so that's our concern, is not being able to get it ready for the parade season this year, which starts in May, which we would be under the gun, but I think we have enough volunteers that we could get something very nice built in that period of time. And it has been something that's been brewing within the Fall Festival Committee for a couple years. But we didn't really have the manpower or someone to kind of spearhead, because we're a limited number of people. So Miss Newman's mom, Sandy, who was also a former Miss Newman, has really kind of spearheaded this project, and that's why it's coming up now. You know, and would like something, of course, for her daughter to experience, to have the same Miss Newman experience that she had. The float always was under the guise of the chamber. They don't have the manpower to handle it.
Have you talked to them about financially helping the chamber?
I haven't really, because just, I get different answers about whether they're in existence or not, so.
Well, I think it'd be important to nail that down, because I get the same thing. I don't know if there is a chamber. So
Last I
think-
heard was there is, but there's not enough people to do stuff, and so we can't have that responsibility.
So I think it'd still be worth, talking to somebody from them, and I don't know if they have any money in their coffers, probably not, but it'd be worth, I think, exploring that.
Yes.
Again, I'm not so sure I'm real supportive of getting in the float business.
I've already talked to our insurance agent, so insurance-wise, the float can be transferred to our insurance under our umbrella policy without making a really hard financial hit to the Fall Festival, because that would have been a deal breaker, just we can't afford a huge increase in insurance like that. So that is something that's already done. We have no problem with the title transferring to Fall Festival so that the city does not
So
retain any
we would not
ownership.
have any ownership.
Yes, absolutely. And we commit to, if we can have a little bit of money to seed the maintenance, we commit to not coming back to council for more money. We will handle that responsibility of keeping the funds.
Well, I wouldn't be so opposed to matching. I'm not so sure I'm in favor of seeding money, though.
Okay.
Putting money up front.
Okay.
I think if the group came back and showed us a reasonable effort that they raised some money, city manager has recommended, that we could go as high as $5,000. I would support that, knowing that the group has raised the funds, have gone out
Okay.
and got some matching funds.
Okay,
Because I think I'd be in favor of partnering in a matching setting rather than, here's $5,000, you're not getting any more, go spend it.
Okay.
I don't, you're talking, public funds and tax
Yes.
dollars, and so I think we gotta be careful how we spend that money. I too think it'd be a great thing to have float. I remember back in the day when we had a nice float. But times have changed, and, the economy has changed, so I'd be more supportive if I knew that the group was able to raise some funds, at least make an effort to go out and see if they could get some matching funds, either it be from private donations through businesses or whatever. I'd be more comfortable with that. And assuming that the work, you're gonna recruit a workforce to do all the work. You talked about where it's gonna be kept. I think it's crucial to know where it's gonna be kept. Obviously, it has to be kept inside.
yes.
It can't be exposed to the elements.
No.
So I think I'd have to know that that's been nailed down,
Okay.
that that's locked in. You covered the insurance, you covered who owns the float. And I think I would be in favor of supporting the city manager recommendation of the ceiling, the city's involvement up to $5,000 with matching funds from the committee, the workforce, whoever comes up with it. But I would have to know that effort's been put forward and the group has been able to raise money. That's just me. So I'm just only one person.
I have to agree with the mayor on that as far as the matching funds, because we're giving you 5,000, but then we're giving you an additional 5,000 on top of that as a loan.
It's a one-time
saying-
fee.
Right, saying,
Only 5,000, a
Well-
cap of 5,000.
right, but they're asking for 10 total.
No, they're asking- well-
5 of that being loaned, and they'll pay us back as they gain
Yeah,
donations.
and see, and
And-
my understanding, Michael, is it a one-time matching fund of $5,000? Is that what your recommendation is?
Yeah, the way I'm, and I've talked to Mr. Butero about it, is they're going to come back with some plans, and the plans are going to have a cost estimate to you, and then the council's going to get an opportunity to approve those at that particular point in time. You'll know what your investment's going to be, because it's going to be 50% of whatever that cost is, up to $5,000. She may come back and say, hey, I'm able to get this done for $8,000, so your max cost would be $4,000.
Right.
And then she would be, or the Fall Festival Committee, not her, but the Fall Festival Committee would then be obligated to get the $4,000 on that, and raise that through private
I just
donations.
think, I mean, Tony, and it's totally up to you. I mean, if you want to, when you're talking about, matching funds, the Fall Festival Committee being on the hook for that amount of money, and I can only say that my spouse is on the committee, she ain't signing nothing.
Yeah, no, she's not signing anything. No, we've talked about making the commitment. We think we can raise it. We've raised, well, I'm going to tell you, when we took over Fall Festival 4 years ago, we were left with $1,000 to put on an event that first year cost us $40. And we did it, and we made money. So we understand needing to go out and fundraise. We understand making the commitment to the committee, to the city, to its residents. I mean, we've done this before, we do it every year. So when we make that commitment, I mean, we talked about it last night at our meeting. We make the commitment to raise the money. Can we raise the money? Yeah, we can raise the money. Okay, then we make the commitment to raise the money. Are any of us personally wanting to be liable in cutting a check? No, just because most of us don't have, $10,000 lying around in our back pockets. But we think that the business community, that residents, this is something that they would like to see, and I think they really would support. So I do think we can fundraise. Do I think we could have it done in 2 months? Possibly. I think we just need to adjust to make sure that we can do that. So.
And Mayor, just for the council, I don't think we need to make the decision right now whether or not you're in front or loan the money, but just kind of giving a commitment, okay, we're gonna match up to a certain amount. It allows her to go out and get some plans. She's gonna come up with the financial plan that you talked about.
Right.
Then we can come back and you guys can make that decision at a later time. She'll have more information as terms of how much she's gonna be able to raise. She's already gonna have some conversations with community members and businesses. She may come back with 1,000 already and on the books, he hasn't collected it, but people have committed it. So, that may change when she comes back the next time with the plans and a financial plan and how much this is actually going to cost. So I would reserve that portion of whether or not the loan's going to take place, and you can think about that.
Yeah, for me, I don't like using the term loan, because I don't want to loan them money. I want to, if they raise funds, I want to be able to match those funds.
Right.
Personally, and my one vote would be to match those funds, not in the stage of a loan, where somebody has to put their name on. I'd say if it's a one-time deal, they go out and they raise $10,000. They go out and they raise $5,000, let's say. I'm willing to go forward and say, okay, we'll match them the $5,000, like your recommendation is. I'd be say, okay, you raise $5,000, we're going to give you $5,000. It's not a loan, because I'm not willing to vote to seed, to front, to give them $5,000 up front to get them started. I want to see an effort on their part to raise the funds.
Fair enough.
That's just me.
Fair enough.
I agree.
That's my thought, yeah.
And it sounds like Ms. Butero's in agreement on that,
That's
so.
fine.
So
Yeah,
maybe-
and I know
That
you're
lets
up-
me know that, I just needed to know that direction so we know what we have to do and how we prioritize everything.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here so early before we have these drawings. I didn't want to get to the point where we have a bunch of drawings and this is what it's gonna cost, and then we have to adjust by half.
Right.
I'd rather come first and know kind of where we're
Yeah,
at, so we
and I think
can
as you're
adjust
out, you know, talking to businesses and everything, you may even have a source sitting in this room. District 5 Supervisor.
Mayor, I think the most appropriate thing tonight may be is if you can get a consensus from your fellow council members as to what a match amount that the council would be willing to match up to. I think that would give Ms. Butero the information she needs to proceed forward.
Well, I think your recommendation is a max up to $5,000, and I would support that, you know,
I would like-
personally.
Yeah, we need to maybe get the rest of the council to consider that as well.
Yeah, providing that they come
Dollar.
up with,
Dollar for dollar.
Yes.
Match.
yeah. Tony, have you talked to, and Patterson's had theirs for years.
Yes.
Have you talked to them how they?
We have had conversations with them. Their community-built float, I have a feeling at some point, they say it's always been community float. I thought at some point, though, that they were judged as a professional float, just being involved with Fall Festival when my mom was chairman. So I wonder, but she says they always build community. With welders and builders, we can do a lot of amazing things.
But it's not, theirs is not a city-owned float.
No, it's a part of the Apricot Fiesta.
Okay.
It is an Apricot Fiesta-owned float.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we would handle all the registration and all those kind of
Tony,
issues.
what about Gustine? How is theirs?
Gustine doesn't have a float.
Patterson has always been a community. I used to be
Yeah.
involved
Yes.
with it.
Yeah.
I always have. been.
Yeah.
My son,
I could have.
Well,
sworn-
I remember,
That was a
because
long time ago.
my daughter was Little Miss Newman back in the day, and we used to go all over the country with it.
The float
That's
was a
when it
very
was-
big
it was
source of pride here.
self-motorized
I
at
mean,
that
it was, yeah, it was motorized, it was self-propelled, it was very advanced for
Yes,
its
it
time. At some point, the motor has been released from its home in the float, I guess
Yeah.
is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It is now just a trailer.
And that's fine.
Which is fine. We have no problem with that. We're not looking to make it self-motorized and really fancy. We just want something that can represent our community well.
Who is going to take this float from place to place?
For this year, at least, we have a commitment from Derek and Sandy to take it, and possibly, maybe for next year and some too. We have a really good group of Miss Newman parents. So part of that is they usually take the girls a lot, because normally Miss Newman has fallen to the chamber. Before Fall Festival were this year, we were informed that chamber would no longer handle that duty. So Fall Festival has kind of reabsorbed that, and so we're very lucky. We have a court with parents for the last couple of years who have chaperoned the girls, taken them around, and when that fails, someone from Fall Festival kind of fills in. So it will fall back to Fall Festival people if there is not a parent. What we plan on doing is creating a policy of like insurance, because when, in talking to our insurance agent, when the float is on the road being towed, it falls under the car driving it. So their insurance would cover it physically on the road. And when it's in the trailer, it would fall under Fall Festival's policy. So we have to make sure that their limits are high enough. If something happens, it can be fixed and all those kind of things.
Obviously, my question is, the float is on the road, the Miss Newman contestants are in that vehicles towing it, the float is in Monterey at a parade.
It's not going to go to Monterey, I can
Wherever.
tell you that right
I
now,
don't
but
care.
it's going to stay pretty
Gustine.
much in Stanislaus
Gustine.
County
Gustine.
and Gustine.
And one of our Miss Newman people fall off of it, somebody gets hurt, it goes errant, runs into the sidewalk and kills a bunch of people. Are we on the hook?
We might not necessarily be on the hook, but we would have to defend ourselves.
Yeah,
We'd
and
at least
that,
have
and quite honestly, that's what I'm really concerned about. You know, stranger things have happened,
Yes.
and it concerns me that, God forbid, something happened to one of our girls, or something awry happens, and as good-natured as everybody is,
I
and
understand.
as parents of the Miss Newman contestants, you know, the city is deep pockets.
Yes,
And
I
my
understand
concern would be, and I don't know if people can legally sign away, we will not sue you, you know, if something happens.
They can do it for themselves, but not for others.
See, and
So
that,
it's
yeah.
the third party is always the
Mayor, I think that
difficult
goes back to the point that where you said maybe we transfer ownership.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely transfer.
Transfer ownership. Once we transfer
But-
ownership and sell it for $1, it's no
I
longer
guess
our
my concern would
responsibility.
still be, though, because somewhere on that float, it's gonna say.
It will say Newman.
City of Newman.
Well, and
So,
it doesn't necessarily
yeah.
need to say city of
Yeah,
it. It will say Newman,
I-
but
I-
let's
so
be
I-
serious,
I
you're
think
deeper than
those-
we are.
I think those are just
concerns that I have,
Yeah.
you know, and it may be stretched, but, you know,
We can work those why don't I talk with Mr. Hallinan and Ms. Norton a little bit about that issue and see what's the best way to protect ourselves, and then we'll report back to the council.
yeah. I think we need.
It's a
to
question we
explore-
asked ourselves in our committee, which is why we talked to the insurance agent. I mean, the risk of having something like this in a litigious society is that the deepest pockets are always going to be on the hook. I can tell you our policy is $1 million, $3 million policy. So I think we have a pretty good umbrella for that. But it does say Newman, so it is a concern. It was a concern of ours to make sure that our insurance would even cover it. Because if that wasn't going to work out properly, the float project was never going to get off the ground, and I wouldn't be here speaking to you guys. So it is a consideration. What I will say is that in talking to the insurance agent, you know, while it's on the parade route, it's going to be going about 5 miles an hour. And if it's sufficiently hooked to the truck, which it would have to be to make it to the parade, we would, knock on wood, hopefully be okay. The girls, when they're on the float, if they're standing, they're going to be secured with their braces that they're belted into, so they're secured physically to the float. The little kids, the little Mr. and Miss Newman would be sitting on benches. We wouldn't have them standing because that's just a risk I wouldn't be willing to take. Just because kids don't pay attention sometimes and could walk off the side or something. So they would be sitting. We try and do as much as we can to make the risk as small as possible, and make sure design-wise that we incorporate those kind of safety features into the float.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anything else, Michael?
So just I heard consensus that the city is willing to match up to $5,000 for dollar from community sponsorship donations that would be assembled by the
Yeah, for them
Fall
to bring back a
Festival.
financial plan.
I'll come back and report back to you after working with Mr. Hallinan and Ms. Norton with respect to liability and maybe, getting rid of or selling the float to the Fall Festival and putting it under their name. And then she's going to come back with a financial plan and a long-term storage plan and some of those other things that you would be wanting to see before you give final approval on an amount as well as the design. So, did I kind of summarize that well enough?
Yep, does for
Okay.
me. Does that work?
Any
Works for me.
questions? Any questions from the council at this time?
All right, good luck. I know
Okay.
you're on a short leash.
That's all right.
So,
We'll make it
I
happen.
hope you can pull it off. Good luck, girls.
We can know you can pull it off. I know you can.
All right. Okay, moving on. We'll go to item 11, items from District 5 Supervisor Jim D. Martini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, members of the council. I just have a few things for you tonight. This is the update on the Crow's Landing Air Base. We do have a company that is interested in using it for training pilots. They're the same outfit that operates out of Castle Air Force Base in Merced right now, and they train pilots to fly, fairly large planes, small planes, helicopters. So next week, they're going to go to Crow's Landing Air Base and look it over. If we can work out a deal with them, they would put in the infrastructure for themselves. And we're still a ways away from it, but it's the first interest that we've had where somebody's going to take a look at it. And our objective there, besides the business part, is actually use the runway. And by our contract with the federal government, we are supposed to use it for that purpose. Plus, we can do other things. So anyway, that's good news. The environmental review is still continuing, should be done this summer. As far as the West Side Healthcare Task Force, since I was here last time, we've completed the awards for the art and essay contest. I've left off calendars here. And I think it was a very successful program this year. We had about 500 entries. And every city had won something on that between the essays and the art contest. We just had our meeting last week in Patterson, and things are moving right along with the task force. We have a lot of interest now from other groups. Stanislaus County's Health Services Agency is now a member of it. Merced County is there, and We have got an updated strategic plan that we're working on now, and we are going to hire a part-time person. The contract was signed yesterday. So we're going to have somebody working part-time to kind of represent the task force and pull together similar groups to work on projects. And of course, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so our objective is to get grants to work projects. Our theme for what we're working on now is get moving and get connected. So anyway, things are going very well. We have the Family Resource Center very involved now, as well as healthcare professionals, municipal governments, and the business community. Our next meeting will be March 5th in Gustine at their city hall. And the last thing I have is LAFCO is going to meet tomorrow night to give staff direction on what they want to do for a methodology for in lieu of fees for the one-to-one mitigation that LAFCO does require. We don't really have a formula for that, so we're working with staff to see if we can come up with one. Stanislaus County has one, but the in lieu of fee was meant for small parcels that were too small to really find a piece of farmland and mitigate it. So we're trying to kind of smooth that out and try and come up with some direction. Should LAFCO give that direction to staff, there would be a public hearing about the policy change next month. LAFCO always welcomes comments from everybody, municipal governments, individuals. So if you have a comment, you can send it to LAFCO, or if you would send it to me, that's fine too, on our proposal to come up with a methodology for in lieu of fees for one-to-one mitigation. So, and that's all I have this evening.
Any questions or comments of Jim? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 12, items from city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. I just received the resignation from Mr. Hutchins. Unfortunately, his work schedule no longer allows him to be on our RDA oversight board. That was a mayor-appointed position. So, Mayor, it's going to be up to you to appoint another member. Typically, we're meeting around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're meeting here. Probably going to meet twice this year. We'll meet next month, and then we'll probably meet in the fall, probably around September, Lou?
Yep.
Probably around September. The meeting's going to last you 20 minutes tops. And then what we do is we just kind of pull the group to make sure we can get a quorum and the number of people that would be there. So, Mayor, we
Anybody interested?
Dick said he would do
Can anybody speak up? Would you like to do that, Roberta?
Sure,
Can you meet 3 in the afternoon with them?
yes.
Perfect. Councilmember Davis will gladly accept that.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you very much. I
So,
appreciate it.
our finance director, Mr. Humphreys, will be probably contacting you soon just to see your availability in the first couple weeks of February, and then we'll just coordinate a time. And again, it'll be a short 15 to 20 minute meeting and just kind of go over some financial stuff. Thank
Perfect.
you again for your
Thank you.
volunteer.
All right.
Just an update. The cities are continuing to work together to see if we can work out a long-term solid waste agreement with the county, and I reported that to you last time. So the ball's in our court right now. We prepared something. We as a group, the cities are going to get together, I think, next week, talk about it, and then hopefully present it to the county to move forward with it. And then lastly, I wanted to thank Councilmember Graham and Mayor Pro Tem Martina. We had a very successful 2+2 last week. I think it's going to be Superintendent Phil Pot was there as well as one of their board members. But it sounds like they're talking about ways that we can collaborate. You know, the reality is we both serve our communities. It's essentially the same community. Their boundaries are a little bit different than ours. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be working together to provide services and facilities for the members of this community and the taxpayers. So it sounded like they were willing to do that. So we talked a little bit about the Northwest Quadrant. We talked a little bit about the Aquatic Center and financing plan. and asking maybe one of their board members to sit on the community committee that you discussed at your last meeting. So with that, just wanted to remind people that may be listening tonight that we still are accepting applications for the community committee. We're going to take those up to the 4th, I believe, Mike. We'll take those up to February 4th, and then we'll ask you at your next meeting, the first meeting in February, to select members to sit on this committee. What we envision as staff is the community committee working with the city council subcommittee and kind of formulating a plan on how we can maybe get something together and a funding plan, and then take it to the electorate and see if they'll support it for not just an aquatic center, but these are lots of different recreational opportunities that we're discussing, and we'd like to just give members of the cross-section of the community to come and participate. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments for City Manager? Thank you, Michael. Okay, we'll go to staff. Chief, anything?
Evening, Mayor, Council members. I have one quick announcement. With the recent vacancy in our department, it gives me great pleasure to announce that Reserve Officer Clinton Finucci will be starting with us full-time February 1st.
Great.
So probably the next council meeting, we'll bring him in for his official swearing in as full-time.
Very good.
So can answer any questions.
Any questions, comments for the chief?
What was his last name? Finucci?
Finucci. He's been working with us for the
I think I
last
did.
year and a half as a reserve, so.
Sounds like he belongs like out of Italy or something.
Right.
Finucci. Not giving a bad rap or anything.
No.
Bad rap.
Okay, Stephanie, anything?
I have an update on the LJ Newman renovation project for the council. I have a couple of photos you'll see before you. As you are all aware, this is how the building looked before. A little dated, a little old. This is in October when we started the demolition, we meaning the contractor. As you can see, the facade on top has been removed, all the flooring's been removed, just pretty much stripped out the building. November, things proceeded, and you can actually see the top of the building being reconstructed, as well as the new plumbing in the restrooms. The restrooms are being reconfigured for ADA requirements, so all the walls were knocked down, and everything was renovated there. This is in December. As you can see, the facade is coming along. You see a little bit more detail, as well as the toppers, wall framing for the storage room and bathrooms. And currently, the cornice has been placed on top. It's been first coat of stucco, or scratch coat, I guess is what they call it. You see the awnings there in the front, as well as a new T-bar ceiling grid inside. They're also currently working on some electrical replacements, and we've already placed our submittal orders for colors and things like that, so it's coming along nicely. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
What is the timeline, Steph, as far as completion?
The goal was mid-February completion. Of course, we had some weather days, but so far we're on track. Knock on wood, somewhere.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good. Anything else for Stephanie? All right, thank you. Lou?
Just a couple things. We have the treasurer's report for December. It's been completed. It's in your inboxes. And with regard to our oversight board, thank you for serving on that committee. The oversight board here locally is only going to exist through June of next year, through 2016, after which all the boards in the county get consolidated down to a single oversight board. There's been a lot of changes that they're trying to push through on the RDA and oversight board, as far as not having to meet every 6 months to provide a ROPS. They're looking at doing it once a year, and even also possibly providing a final recognized obligation payment schedule. We'd submit one, and then we would get funds each year to pay off our debts and continue on. So they're looking at trying to make it a lot easier to manage. That's all I got. Happy to answer any questions you have.
I've been asked a couple times by a couple different people, and I meant to ask either you or Michael about the McBride building. Are we going to do anything? I mean, I know it's still kind of in limbo, I think.
Yeah, we've been talking with our public works superintendent. He's supposed to be getting together a plan. We got to do a little bit of demo in there, and then we need to make an investment in it. So that'll probably be coming either in mid-year or the next fiscal year budget to do some rehab on that building.
So we're in a position where we can start moving forward, doing something with it at this point.
Correct. We sealed up the roof, and that was a big thing, and it's not leaking anymore. So we're at a point now to where we need to just do some basic interior modifications, and then get that ready for whatever the council sees fit as moving forward.
Good. I don't know, maybe make some money off of it.
Correct. We're trying to get the county to come out and take it.
Yeah, good luck with that. Okay, Kasum, anything else, Luke?
Nope, that's
Thank
it.
you very much. Kasum?
Yeah, good evening. I have just one item regarding groundwater. I attended 2015 Stanislaus County Water Summit on January 16 and provide a presentation for our water conservation effort, all the achievement last year. And one of the main items regarding the summit was groundwater. It's not any longer groundwater management, but groundwater sustainability. So state to set up very strong, very solid schedule for the groundwater sustainability regulation. So we will follow up. One of the key components of the groundwater sustainability plan is to make a formation working as a group. For example, the city of Newman became Delta Mendota groundwater basin. So Seaside, Newman, Patterson, some other local agencies will work all together to meet those new requirements associated with groundwater. I will keep updated.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we'll go to council member comments. Casey, anything?
Nothing, I'd just like to thank Don again for his service, and that's right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Roberta, anything?
I don't have anything.
Bob?
No, just wish you a lot of luck on your retirement. No, Don, it was really exciting serving with you on the council. People don't realize the continuity that the councils, from one council to another, it makes it possible for all the things that happen in Newman. And you were a great part of that, so thank you for your service.
Absolutely. And I think, along those lines, also the commitment it takes as to be a council member, and you took that commitment very seriously, and I was applaud you for even raising to the state ranks of California League of Cities and representing the city of Newman, and those are all very important meetings, that sometimes small cities get lost because bigger cities tend to take over, and so it's nice to have that voice. So I appreciate your attendance and making sure that Newman was taken care of and recognized. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's see, there was something else and now it slipped my mind. Oh, Michael, is there any anticipated follow-up meetings with the South County Corridor
I know there's one in Patterson this week.
coming up?
You guys know what the schedule was on that? Tomorrow night in Patterson. There'll be tomorrow night in Patterson. You can go to valleyvisionstanislaus.org. There's a website. You can look at the maps on there. You can actually draw routes that you think would be appropriate on there. So we'll continue to stay active on it.
Yeah.
But ours was pretty well attended. So.
Okay, very good. All right.
Mayor, just a reminder, in honor of Mr. Hutchins, we do have cookies and drinks in the back.
Absolutely, absolutely. I said we get done quickly, but it took a little bit longer, so. Okay, if there's no further business, motion from the council?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're opposed, or we're adjourned. Thank you.